Hey there, good looking people. It's your girl Patrice. I'm Patrice Davis, and I am the CEO of GrantsWorks and of course, and GrantsWorks Academy. GrantsWorks is a government grant consulting company. I'm also the CEO of Ready, Set, Go Consult, and I am constantly talking about the benefits of launching an independent consulting business. In fact, I actually teach experienced professionals how to launch, build, and scale a consulting business. But that's not what I'm here to talk about right now. Right now, I'm here to talk about the top 5 consulting niches. So I'm going to wait for some of you guys to come in. I'd love to share some of this information with you. This is even more important because with all of the things that are happening right now in our economy, companies are doing things differently. And one of the things that they're doing differently is they're finding ways to supplement their staff. So they're basically finding ways to save costs by, of course, eliminating jobs, but in some instances, they're also filling in certain key positions with independent consultants. Many of them, especially the larger ones, they've used the large consulting companies for a long time. They've used the Bains, the Boston Consulting, the PricewaterhouseCoopers. They've used, the Ernst & Young and some of these other companies. And, those companies are great. They have a lot of experience and expertise and some of the best minds probably in the world. But they also, of course, come with a high fee. And if you're a company nowadays and you're trying to save money, yes, you can go the route of a large, consulting company, or you can find a mid-size or a small or even a solopreneur, a consultant that has the expertise and that deep knowledge you're looking for. And that person can provide you more personalized, more engagement probably because you're working with them and their small staff instead of maybe them, the small staff, the director, and the whole the whole infrastructure that comes with working with some of these larger, really large consulting firms. So as I said before, I'm here to talk about the top 5 consulting niches. So there are a couple of things to consider. If you've been laid off, right? And there are a lot of people who've been laid off. We've heard about, Meta. We've heard about all the big tech firms laying folks off. We've even heard about some management consulting companies laying off folks. And those are those big companies I talked about before. So Accenture, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. They've laid off 19,000 people. PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young. Well, I'm not sure about Ernst & Young, but I've definitely seen Bain, PwC, and McKinsey have laid off their management consultants. So what does that mean? That means that a lot of those folks more than likely are going to enter the management consulting space. Or maybe, they'll find some other consultant or some other specialist role at maybe their client side. So, as we used to call it, I used to work in marketing. And so we used to have, the agency side where you worked for an advertising agency or marketing agency. And then you have what you call client side. That's when you shifted from working from an agency to obviously on the client side. So if you've been laid off, if you're ready for more freedom, hey there, the virtual PM, thanks for joining. So like I said, if you're ready to leverage the skills that you have, you need to look into how you can actually start, not need to, but this is one of the things you can certainly do is how can you leverage your expertise to actually sell your services to a company. So, hey there, Gina, Momina. Thanks for joining. I'm here talking about the top 5 consulting niches. I got some data for y'all. I got some info for y'all. And because, I strongly believe that we need to take our power back. And a lot of times we don't realize we have that power because we're typically responding to things around us. So take that power back. You know, you've spent a lot of money, you've gotten the degree, some of you, you have, you know, all of this experience. Take that power back and figure out how you can direct your experience and your expertise to work with the clients you want to work with, not necessarily who your, you know, employer or your former employer wanted you to work with. Take back your power and start a service-based business. It can be a consulting business. That's what I specialize in. I have a consulting business. It's a grant consulting business. How many people do you know start a consulting business on federal grants? Like how to apply for a federal grant, how to manage a federal grant, how to comply with a federal grant. Not a lot of people are doing that. You see a lot of grant writers, but not a lot of people who specialize in federal grants. So once I realized, hey, I've got this knowledge, let me take my power back and figure out how to apply this knowledge in other organizations or for other organizations and have them pay me to help them figure out how to better manage their federal grants. And I'm not talking about just, you know, paper shuffling, guys. I'm actually going in, analyzing how their business operates, and then making specific recommendations on how they can change the way they do certain things in their business so they can manage that grant properly. Because you got some organizations going from 0 federal grants to 17. Obviously, you're going to have to change things because, you know, for obvious reasons. So I just wanted to give you an example of how you can take a very specialized expertise and then actually get paid by large companies. Some of my clients include some of the large organizations that I know you would know the name. So let me go into some stats. I have some stats here for you. I believe in the data. Your girl believes in using data. So just want to make sure y'all know. So number one, the government spends about $25 billion in consultants each year. 40% of Fortune 500 companies use consultants. So you're probably, and then in 2022, the federal government, that's the U.S. federal government, awarded 29,129 contracts for $23.5 billion in management consulting and project management services. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with something called a NAICS code. A NAICS code is basically, it's a code system that is used, I forgot what, I think it's North American Industry Code System. I think that's what it stands for. And so the NAICS code that they actually refer to, that 23.5 billion is NAICS code 541611, and that is the NAICS code for management consulting and other professional services. My business is in that NAICS code. So businesses are spending more on independent consulting than ever before. And they're looking at independent consultants, as I said earlier, because independent consultants, you know, they're going to offer more personalized experience. They're going to more than likely be more cost effective for a lot of companies than, you know, hiring, you know, a fancy, consultant from PricewaterhouseCoopers or KPMG or and all those other folks who are definitely worth, you know, more, you know, they got the expertise, they got all these things. But if I'm a business and I'm watching costs and I can get a consultant for $6.50 an hour that works at Ernst & Young versus an independent consultant that I can pay $3.50 an hour, and yes, those rates are realistic for an independent consultant, then you're going to more than likely go with that person who's maybe a one-man show or he has a small team, and and so you can hire them and get the same expertise and get the same, but you're going to get more hands-on experience or hands-on engagement. So want to let y'all know a little bit about that. And another thing to consider is that this is a more competitive environment right now. So companies are like, how can we stand out? And so hiring outsiders, so to speak, to provide strategy. That's what I do. So some of our organizations, some of the clients are very, very smart people, but they're in it. You know how sometimes they say if you're in it, you can't really see what the challenges are. Very, very smart people. But they don't have that they don't have the experience that an external person has that can come in and say, you know what, this is great and this is good that you all are doing things this way, but based on my expertise, and that's why expertise is so important, these are some considerations that you can make to change the way you operate. And you just see their heads shaking like that, their eyes wide up. And it's a very simple, sometimes, recommendation that I'm presenting, but I'm able to present it because I'm on the outside. That's what consultants can bring. They bring an external definitely expertise, but basically an external point of view. And basically after analyzing and spending a little bit of time getting to know their client, can make very specific recommendations to them. So let's keep going. They're looking at a 54% increase by 2025 in independent consultants. And here's the thing, because of hiring freezes and layoffs that are happening, companies still need to fill those gaps. And so what they're doing is they're finding independent consultants and other freelancers to fill those gaps. So don't think that, she said, what is the first step to get started? I'm going to go ahead right now. So the first step to get started, Gina, is you need to really figure out who your target market is. So Gina, go ahead and let me know what field you're in, and I'm going to see what I can do to provide some recommendations. Drop a note, let me know what field you're in, and I can say, okay, Gina, here's some things that you can consider. Definitely figure out your target market and then line that up with your services. So I'm going to give you an example, Gina. Maybe you come from HR. Maybe you have like 15 years of HR experience. I'm just giving an example. And maybe in your world, in your experience at HR, you've worked at a couple of big banks and you've done, you've helped them facilitate a number of layoffs. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just talking about that, right? You actually have people who are layoff specialists, right? You can be an HR consultant and your specialty can be facilitating layoffs. Again, I'm not saying this, I'm not putting any judgment on that specialty, but I'm just giving you an example of how you can parlay your experience. You can be an HR consultant, but an HR consultant that specializes in, how to manage staff during a downturn. You see what I'm saying? She said, I'm an attorney and certified HR professional. There we go. Okay, there we go. I love it. So you see, you have all of that. So how do you get started? So Gina, you're an attorney, certified HR professional, and EEO investigator. So there are a couple of things I can think of. So number one, I'm not sure if your specialty in law is as an employee. I think it's an employment law, but obviously that is definitely something that you consider, becoming an employment law consultant. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, especially now with all the layoffs and things that are happening. And here's another reason why that's something to consider if that's what you're interested in. Companies are figuring out how to have hybrid workforces. So when you talk about hybrid workforces, you're talking about some folks that have benefits, some folks that don't. Some people have access to certain systems because they're full-fledged employees, some folks that do not. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just giving you some examples. Hey there, Erica, thanks for joining. And Sean, thanks so much for joining. I'm hoping I'm sharing some information. So Eric, so Gina, let me know if any of that is resonating with you. Now you're EEO professional, equal employment. Well, there's a whole, let me talk about something. So we've heard a lot about DEI consultant, and I understand DEI theoretically, and I certainly understand it in terms of a goal that some companies said they wanted. Some was, was all PR. Some were really trying to make some changes. However, when you take that EEO though, right? That EEO means it ain't now just about what you say. It ain't about the good PR. It's about, hey, what are you actually doing? Are you actually complying with some of the laws that are in place for you to actually, demonstrate that you're adhering to equal employment laws. I'm not sure if I'm but I'm just throwing some ideas out there. So when I talk about being an independent consultant, one of the things I always try to clarify for folks is that I'm not talking about those management consulting firms, the Deloitte, the McKinsey's, the Boston Consulting, the Accenture, the PricewaterhouseCoopers, the KPMG, the Ernst & Young, they go on and on and on. I'm talking about using your skills and starting your own independent consulting business. So like I said, Gina, the first thing is find out your target market, find out exactly what services you think you can offer, and offer them at this is so important. You want to find services that you can offer that aren't going to just be so taxing. And I have that experience. Let me give you my experience. I used to, up until very recently, offer like services that was like a 50 to 60 page consulting report with this, that, and the other, all my links in my document. And then I realized, and it was very beneficial. Basically, I was doing a gaps analysis of my clients' compliance, right? How are they complying with the regs of their federal grants? You got a $10, $15, $20 million in federal grants. You don't want to mess that up. You want to comply. So I would actually do an analysis of their systems to say, here are where the compliance gaps are. Report, recommendations, implementation plan, all of that. And up until recently, I decided I wasn't going to offer those anymore. And I would charge a pretty penny. I mean, I'm talking about, you know, mid 5 figures to create that, because that was a number of hours of my time. When I say mid 5 figures, I'm meaning it ain't, you know, it's not 50,000, but it's definitely in the 5 figures. So I'm just giving you an example of something that can be a little taxing when you are a solopreneur. I'm no longer a solopreneur. I now have 2 full-time staff, and I'm the 3rd full-time person in my position. So just want to give you guys an example of a service that may be a little bit too much to start out with, and it's a little bit too taxing, and then you find yourself not having enough time marketing your services, creating content, you know, managing some of the other areas of your business. And I did that for 3 years. So I'm just giving you examples of making sure you can find and deliver services that make sense for the time that you have to invest and your resources. Also, avoid services, and this is a big one, avoid services where you have to rely on a subcontractor, because that obviously cuts into your profit margin. And I did that a couple of years as well. But just want to give y'all some thoughts. So here are the top 5 consulting niches. Some of these won't be a surprise, but I'm gonna end all of this with something that I'm sure when y'all hear this, y'all gonna be like, yep, that makes a lot of sense. So obviously a management consultant, that's the general management consultant we hear about. That's still gonna be one of the top consulting niches here. Here's why. You can be a management consulting that specializes in organizational development, or a management consultant that specializes in how a company can increase its profits or it reduces waste or streamline their operations. So a management consultant is that person that is hired to advise management, advise the CEO, advise the CFO on how they can either streamline their business or do something, right? You're advising management, and that's why it's a management consultant. And depending on your business expertise, you can advise a CEO. So that's why that field, and they range, you know, $250 up to $400 an hour as an independent consultant. So I just want to give you guys a heads up on that one. Another one is IT consulting. I'm sure y'all not surprised to hear that. Here's why. You got people in IT that specialize in database consulting, cybersecurity consulting, software development, network architecture. I always give the example, 2 examples I always give. If I'm in cybersecurity, there are 2 things that I'm always thinking about in terms of market. Number 1, the federal government now requires anybody that has a contract with the federal government to have certain cybersecurity standards in place, or operations, or whatever in place. Cybersecurity, IT people with IT, but cybersecurity experience, you know, can actually develop a whole business just servicing that particular market. And that could be your specialty, because now you know exactly what the federal government requires, what the threshold is, what the minimum is. And you've got a whole bunch of companies that they know they have to comply. They got to spend the money. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's a small business, they got a $10 million government contract. They don't want to mess that up. And they will pay you whatever it is. I'm not saying they'll pay you whatever you charge, but you know, they're trying to manage their contract so that they don't lose it. So they are going to be willing to pay a cybersecurity consultant. The other example I always give is you got a lot of medical professionals. They have to adhere to HIPAA laws and all of these things to protect and other things they have to do to protect patient data. That's cybersecurity. So that's a whole nother market that I always talk to folks about. So if you're in cybersecurity, that's a great place to be. HR consulting, again, because of all of the layoffs and everything that's happening and our work world changing. Remember, y'all, a whole bunch of people became on what they call soft quitting and all these other things, and companies are just feeling very unstable. And then of course you've got the economy. So HR consulting is very, very hot right now. It's just a matter of finding that niche. And one niche that I keep seeing more and more is an HR consultant that specializes in hybrid work, because that's the future of work. The future of work is hybrid work, hybrid staff. And so just wanted to throw that out there as one of the top niches. Another niche is, it's actually covers several things, but it has to do with basically digital marketing. We've heard about digital marketing, but here are some sub niches that I'm seeing some really, really high monthly, expected high monthly income. Google Analytics for consulting. So you're not just doing regular, Google Analytics 4 is coming out, I believe, in 2023. And so folks that can learn that and consult on that and learn how to maximize Google ads, that's one of them. You got pay-per-click advertising consulting. They said that 62% of marketers have decided to increase their PPC budgets to pay-per-click budgets. I'm telling you now, as a person who has run ads, the ads are amazing. They are amazing at targeting the exact people you're looking for. If you find the right PPC consultant, your business can take off. Obviously, you've got to pay for it. You got to have a large enough ad budget to really see the impact. But I just want to give you guys that. And then financial consulting. I think I've already given y'all more than 5, but I tend to overdo it. So financial consulting, that's never going to go away. Y'all have probably heard about fractional CFOs. I'm seeing a lot of fractional CFO consulting. That's basically when a company says, we don't want a full-time CFO, right? We want to save some money. Our budgets are low right now. Let's hire someone that will be a fractional CFO and basically pay them on retainer. We don't have to pay them a $250,000 salary. Maybe we'll pay them a $100,000 contract to just work 20 hours a week. And we pay them on retainer. And so as a fractional CFO, you focus obviously on the finance and accounting of the company. But then you can have a specialization in maybe growth, financial challenges, systems, how to raise funding, how to prepare a company to be attractive for investors, right? And then, of course, how to navigate an audit. Those are just some examples of how a fractional CFO can be, if you come from finance and that's something you think that you can do, something to consider. Quiet quitting, that's it. Thank you, Gina. Thank you so much, girl. Teach me, D. Hey, girls, thanks for joining. So any other questions? Throw the questions at me. I've been doing consulting now. I'm just going on my 4th year, but I've been in the work world, guys. I started out in marketing. I used to be, I started out in advertising. I actually used to plan ad campaigns, for, Johns Hopkins Hospital and, a couple other places when I lived in Baltimore. Any Baltimore folks out there? And so I went from marketing, from advertising to marketing. And then when my son and my children were younger, I was like, you know what? This advertising marketing space is requiring too much of my personal time. So I downgraded my career for like 5 or 6 years. And that's when I moved into the grant space, because I was able to take my, analysis for marketing and advertising and take those same skills and apply them to managing government grant budgets, multi-million-dollar government grant budgets. And that's how I gained this new skill. So I guess the point I'm making is, and that even in of itself is a great lesson. How do you take the skills and knowledge you have and parlay them into something else, right? So I'm going to ask some of y'all out there. I would love to get your thoughts on this. Many folks are really good at, they're fantastic in the workplace. They do presenting all the time. Maybe they go to conferences and represent their companies. How many of you all, and y'all can be very, very honest, are afraid of saying, okay, I have this business and I'm going to promote myself and promote my business? I would love to hear, if I was thinking one step to pitch, what's the most important web presence I need to have? I got to tell you, a website, to me, the website, because social media, I'm just going to leave it like that, a website, because your website is, and it's so interesting that you brought that up. I hear a lot of people saying you can't rely on social media. Social media belongs to other folks. So Instagram and Facebook belong to Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg decided to do something tomorrow and shut them both down. You out of luck. TikTok belongs to that gentleman from China. He decided, for whatever reason, the U.S. government decides, you know what, TikTok really is something we're not feeling comfortable with. We're going to just close this down. Then you out of luck. if what else is out there? Bottom line is those are all platforms that you can't really own. So if you do all of your activity on those platforms, you're gonna be out of luck if something go down, right? I remember a couple of years ago, Facebook went down for like a half a day, and all these folks' businesses were like, yeah, a lot of folks were not feeling good that day. You know why? They probably had ad campaigns. Maybe they had a launch the next day, and they were relying on Facebook ads or some other engagement to attract customers. So that's why it's not good to rely on, some other online presence. So get your website. Let me see what else. Do you sign up to be a vendor with private companies? That's one way you can do it, Gina, but it's here. I don't typically do that. Here's why. So you can sign up to be a vendor with certain, like your local government and some of these other places. And yes, you can become a preferred vendor with some corporations. And so that's a route you can certainly try. I haven't had to do that. I have a specific thing that I do to attract clients. One of the things I used to do pre-2023 and what I'm doing now. I still do what I used to do in the past because that's so important. Here I am, and I'm coming to you, and I'm telling you, you can trust me with your $15 million government grant from, let's say, NIH or CDC. I can't, I got to present myself as an expert. Right? So what do? I make sure if you go to grantsworks.com right now, I've got blogs about managing your grant or about a law that, awards $600 billion in funding. So I'm writing all the time. I'm not saying you got to do what I do. But that attracts clients to me. That's one of the ways that I attract clients. But becoming a preferred vendor is one way, but there are not a lot of corporations that have preferred vendors for the services I offer. So that's one of the reasons why I have not. It may be for your business if that's what you decide to do. Fear. And we all know, I know you know this on a logical level. I was afraid to do IG Live. I did it last week, and here I am doing the second time. Somebody told me if you just change the perspective. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to other women, primarily women just like me. And all I'm doing is sharing information. So if you take fear and just kind of flip it a little bit, and really kind of analyze what the fear is about, then you'll realize you ain't got no reason to be afraid. Here's another thing. The more you practice it, the less you become afraid. I'm going to tell y'all something. Let me give y'all a brief story. In 2020, when we know what was going on in 2020, is when I launched my business in 2020. I decided to start doing webinars because I needed to get my name out there. I mean, I wasn't really getting clients because, it was 2020. And I remember that first webinar, I was terrified. I had 25 people on that webinar, folks from Colorado. I was like, damn, I got somebody on here from Colorado. And then, so I guess the point I'm making is I was afraid that first webinar. I have probably done now, I do like maybe 6 to 10 a year. So I've done probably about 30 webinars now. And that's another reason why even doing this IG Live is not as intimidating, because I've been kind of engaging with folks through a screen for the last 3 years. So how do I find clients? I find clients in a number of ways. And that's actually one of the things that I'm going to be talking about. I have a client attraction masterclass, but I'll talk to you guys about that later. But I find clients in a number of ways. But one of the ways that I don't mind sharing with you guys right now is I do something called basically attraction marketing. What does that mean? Remember I told y'all I write, I do all the things, and we know what this means. Really, it's really proving your thought leadership. And in order to do that, you have to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to push past the fear, to either shine a light on a different perspective of something, or just shine a light on your expertise altogether. So that's one of the ways I get a lot of referrals. And quite frankly, once an organization gets 15, 20, 30 million in federal grants and they don't have a team to manage it because the team doesn't have experience managing grants, they typically are looking for folks. But most folks come to me. One of the ways they come to me is through Google searches. I have Google ads. I also have, my blogs are really doing a great job for me as far as search engine optimization. I don't just write the blogs just because I want to write them. I'm writing them because they're attracting clients to me. You see what I'm saying? Any other questions? Hey, Sabrina, how's it going? Thanks for joining, girl. Anything else? I have a lot of questions. So like, how do I become a consultant? I've been answering Gina's questions. Gina, keep throwing them at me. Anything else you want to ask? So one thing I do want to say is that don't become a consultant because you want the title, right? I want you to become a consultant, and I want you to kick butt being a consultant. In order to kick butt being a consultant, there are a number of things you need to do, but you definitely have to want it. And you have to be willing to put yourself out there, and you have to position yourself as a thought leader. You really have to, because if you are an HR consultant and there are 50 other HR consultants that somebody can choose from, what makes you different from any other HR consultant? Gina, girl, you're an attorney and you specialize in equal employment, the EEO laws. So, she said that's a good nugget. Attraction marketing ain't no joke, y'all. It's a longer game, but what it does is, so if you're looking for clients to just come through the door, there are different tactics, different strategies. But if you're playing the longer game and you're trying to build your reputation, you're trying to get speaking engagements, you're trying to do some other things, attraction marketing is a great way to do it, because all you're doing is, it's almost like reputation management, but it's reputation management with sort of like a fishing rod. Like I'm creating my reputation. You're going to know me as a grant expert, right? You're going to know who I am, but not only are you going to know who I am because I'm building that reputation, I'm trying to reel you in by sharing some education and some knowledge, so that when you as a CFO, you staying up at night because you don't know how to manage $50 million in grants, I'm first in your mind because I've already shared expertise and posts on LinkedIn and some of the other things and my blogs to help you understand that I know my stuff. I do the free webinars, right? So I do a number of things, not over the top, but I do have my 4 top things that I do to attract clients. Attraction marketing almost serves as sort of like that base. There are other things that are much more direct. Any other questions? How do you pick your prices? So that is that's so interesting. I'm glad you asked that. So your pricing, the other day I actually did a reel on this. There are different pricing models. So you've got the hourly rate, which I always advise against, and most folks advise against an hourly rate. For some reason, people feel comfortable with it, but you don't have to go that route. I think it's because when you first start out as a solopreneur, you're trying to figure out, okay, well, when I was working, I was making about $38 an hour. What I think I'm going to do is charge $45 an hour. No, that's not what you're going to do. You're going to go ahead and you're going to charge by project. And then, when you really, you don't even have to charge by project. You can actually do what's called value-based pricing. What is the value of this service to this client? So it may cost your company, let's say $5,000 to deliver to deliver that deliverable, finish that deliverable. You may charge, let's say, $10,000, $12,000, because the value of that deliverable. This deliverable is going to help this company no longer stress about losing their funding. You see what I'm saying? Do you think I should start lower to get experience? I think, well, I'm going to tell you you could, but one thing that I know a lot of folks, you know what? Not necessarily. Here's why. If you have a former employer, and there are a lot of, but by the way, most of the folks in the Ready, Set, Go Consult program are people who actually have burgeoning, or they have consulting businesses, but they haven't really been maximizing it. And many of them are using their former employers or just former partners as their first 1 or 2 clients. So I guess the point I'm making is, if you have a former employer from, your most recent employer or 1 or 2 back, I would approach them and pitch a price. You have connections in there, right? And you can pitch a price, and it would be the price that makes you feel uncomfortable. I hear from a lot of coaches that say, always choose a price that makes you feel a little uncomfortable. Now, so that's what you can do in that scenario. And maybe with another engagement, because you're trying to build up that experience, maybe you'll charge a little bit less. So you can basically adapt based on the scenario when you first start out. After a while, you're going to do what, maybe you'll do what my company, what I've actually done is I've actually listed one of the things I've actually done is every single service that I offer, I list out every particular step. What does the EA do? What does the lead grant consultant do? What does the CEO do? That's me. And then I lay out all of the steps, and then the estimated number of time for us to do it. Then I total it up and I calculate everybody's hourly rate, but not their hourly rate in terms of what we charge. Their out, whatever their salary is and what that computes to, and from an out, just to come up with a cost. And then, so what I'm saying is, learn the business, figure out what pricing is going to get you the business, figure out where you can actually charge that price that makes you feel uncomfortable. But over time, you're going to need to standardize it. Not necessarily standardize, because quite frankly, I still will charge, variable prices depending on the service. So just want to give you all that tip. Anything else? Any other questions? I do want to let y'all know a couple of things. So think about if you're afraid of promoting yourself. Gina, you said you're afraid of, being rejected. Being rejected is a part of being in business. I'm in a mastermind, and one of the things that my mastermind coach says all the time, that what a lot of people see as failure isn't really failure. What you're doing is you're learning from that failure so you can get to that win. So if you again, remember, if you flip some of the things that you're thinking, flip it on its head, then you can see it from a different perspective and learn from it. Right? So, Ready, Set, Go Consult, as I've shared before, is basically we are an accelerator program for people who want to launch consulting businesses, or they have consulting businesses, but they don't have a website. And I walk them through not just building the website, that's just the operational part, but just a lot of the deep work that you need to do to be able to stand up confidently and say, I'm the expert that you need to pay 15, 20, 25,000, whatever it is for this service, right? And I realized too that, and so that's one of the things we do at Ready, Set, Go Consult, is we actually coach you through that process. So we have an 8-week program. Our doors are closed, so this is not an opportunity to talk about the accelerator. I do want to talk to you guys, though, about the Client Attraction Masterclass that's happening next week. Here's the cool thing about it. It's next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 6 to 7:30. So it's about the same time, next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to basically walk you through a couple of things. Number one, get clarity on your perfect customer and their pain points. So Gina, you wanted to know, okay, you've got all this great experience. Who is looking for your expertise? We walk you through that. So you're much clearer about who you're talking to. Every time you write a blog, every time you do a LinkedIn post, every time you do you propose a speech, or every time you go to you figure out what conferences you're going to go to, you're thinking about that perfect customer, because that's who you know. You know who my perfect customer is? CFOs. CFOs are my perfect customers, or executive vice presidents. You know why? Because they are very, very tuned into the fact that they got to make sure that they don't mess up these $15, $20 million in government grants. And not only are they I know they are, because those are the people I've actually hired. Like, I literally did analysis of all the clients I've had and who was it that actually reached out and who actually signed me on. And it was almost always a CEO or an executive director of a large nonprofit or executive vice president of a university or something like that. So that's the first thing. You're also going to figure out how you can stop undercharging to align your prices with your value. So to answer your question, Gina, you're thinking maybe I need to start low to get experience. You don't necessarily have to do that. And we definitely walk you through how to avoid doing that. I remember one time creating like a 15-page report for a company based they had staff in Norway, they had staff in the UK. Y'all, I charged them less than $1,000 for that report. And that report took me a good 16 hours, but I was in my first year of business. I didn't know any better. That report, I could have charged $25,000 for had I known better. So you see how, like, perspective and even thinking, oh, I don't have enough experience. Girl, that's a $25,000 report. I charged them less than $1,000. And I included a 1-hour consultation on the front end and a 1-hour consultation after they got the award. So they got a lot of hours of my time because I didn't know any better. And I want you to know better so that you don't make those same mistakes. By the way, if you guys are interested in this masterclass, you can, check the link in bio. The next thing we're going to be talking about and teaching you is how to position yourself to attract other business opportunities. We've talked about attraction marketing. I didn't talk about some of the opportunities and how to attract those. So attraction marketing, again, you can almost see it as sort of like, a foundation, but there are more targeted things you can do as you kind of walk, move up that pyramid. And then, of course, streamline and automate your systems. Here's why. You don't want, when you're working with a client, an email comes in from some big company that wants to work with you, but you're working on your deliverable. You got a timeline, you got a deadline that you're trying to meet, but you got this email from this really great prospect. How do you do both things? Well, there's ways you can do it. One of the ways you do it is to make sure that you have systems in place to make sure a response is going out to that prospect while you're still focusing on that deliverable for your current client. You see what I'm saying? So who is my coach? Actually, my coach is Rachel. What is Rachel's last name? It's a shame. I read her book every day. Rachel Rogers. So just, that's the person, so just want to give you guys, but I also have an executive coach. So one of the things people don't, and this is so important, we've heard about the growth of the coaching industry. We don't realize they really can take you to the next level. Just like a consultant can do it for a company, a good coach is able to hear what's happening in your business or what's going on with whatever it is they're coaching you about. And because they're on the outside, they can say, here's what you need to do. Not just because they're on the outside, but they have expertise, they have experience, and they're just a damn good coach. And they can take you to the next level through their coaching expertise. So a lot of business owners have coaches, and the ones that tend to meet their goals are the ones that are working with coaches. So I have my coach, as I mentioned before. I also have an executive coach. As a Black-owned business, I was able to get a grant, but the grant wasn't funding. It was actually time to work with one of the top executive coaches in the country. And the things that I learned from him when I meet with him every week are just mind blowing. So, and that's for my grant consulting business. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Coaching works. Working with people who've done what you want to do, it works because it gets you there that much faster. You're not spending your time twiddling your thumbs trying to figure things out. Work, for example, the accelerator, we accelerate your path to a successful consulting business. So, so that's next Wednesday, next Thursday, and next Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. So, I'm going to pause here to see if y'all have any more questions. But definitely double check the link in bio. I have enjoyed, this is my second IG live, y'all. I'm going to be doing it every week. I have some other things going on, and this is perfect practice for this next level thing that I have in the works. So y'all going to be seeing a lot more of me. And this IG live is, these live experiences, are just a great way to find out directly from folks what their questions are. So, executive coaching, that executive coaching program, I don't remember the name of the program, but just know that it's an excellent way to learn more. So it's interesting because the executive coach has one perspective, right? And he is an executive coach for some of the top attorneys and other business folks in the country. And then I have my other coach. So I have the best of both worlds. One has one perspective, the other has the other perspective. They're not necessarily different. One is a little bit more tactical than the other, right? So that I want you all to understand there truly is a benefit in having a coach. And I can be your coach as a new consultant because I've been where as a matter of fact, I've been where you're trying to go, and I'm in year 4 of my business. So I still can identify with some of your challenges. I may not have the same challenges. My challenges are to get to the very next level, but I'm still close enough to where you are that I'm not so detached from your experiences. So, follow my progress. Hey there. Okay. Absolutely. Engaged, EEO. I love it. Anyone else around? If anybody else have any questions, shoot them at me. If not, this has been a fabulous time. So yeah, Gina, check the link in bio. I also have my consultant starter kit. It's a downloadable starter kit. It has legal templates. You're an attorney. You'll be able to take a look at it and see if that works for you. It has legal templates. It has email templates. It has over 30 business tools that you can use to get your business up and running. So definitely check that out. All right. So bye, y'all. This has been great. I will see y'all actually next Thursday. I'll be in the masterclass. Hopefully you will join me, and I can really share some more information with you at that time. All right. Bye, y'all.